Welcome to the Big Booth, recorded at Stumptown Station, the craft cocktail bar, Matthews, North Carolina, USA. My name is Brian Lewis. I'm your host for another few minutes of learning about craft cocktails, how to make them, and all about the in-depth of craft mixology. That's what we're going to go with. We really do appreciate you guys joining us. Hope that you're not only going to learn something, but that you're entertained while you're doing it. That's our goal here. Let me introduce my co-host. He is the reigning full-contact origami champion of Ohio. He's also a guy that only weighs 75 pounds on Mars. He's a co-owner of Stumptown Station in Matthews, North Carolina, master mixologist, and my drinking buddy, Brandon Mills.
I don't know if that math's right. We might have to go back and check that.
I double-checked that with NASA.
Oh, did you?
I actually emailed somebody at NASA and went, so, hey, I know a guy that weighs, and last episode, we got into the foundation basics of making cocktails,
correct.
Right? The Craft Cocktail 101, that was the 4 parts of a cocktail. So if you haven't gone back and listened to that, go back and listen to it. It might help you as we go. Today we're going to kind of take that and build on it, right?
Right.
So we're going to build on that and talk about the tools of the trade. And what's involved, right? And especially if I'm setting up a bar at my house, right?
Yeah.
And I've got a spare room, hey, I'm setting up a bar. Or if I'm a bar owner somewhere else and I'm watching this video going, hey, I kind of want to do what Brandon does.
Yeah, what do I need?
So there's different, I guess, audiences for this. But we're talking about the tools of the trade.
Right.
So how do we step into that?
Well, we had kind of planned this out and decided we were going to talk about the tools of the trade for bars, right? Mm-hmm. And I came up with about 50 tools that were necessary to have behind a bar. However, that's not at all what you need.
That's going to probably be too many.
Yeah, that's too many. So I narrowed it down to about our top 10. I'm going to call it top 10, but I'm sure we're going to find a way.
These are the more common ones. These are the ones, if you're going to go buy these, and we'll get into where to go get them, but if you're going to go buy these, like everybody at their house, most everybody, I would assume, has a spatula or has a colander, but you might not have a garlic press.
Right,
or,
exactly.
A coffee grinder or something. Yep. That's some things that folks just don't have. So there's the stuff you got to have, and then the stuff that's kind of nice to have once in a while.
Right, yeah. So today we're going to talk about core needs, right? What are the things that you absolutely have to be able to do fancy cocktails, right? So you don't need much to do a one-in-one, do a Jack and Coke or something like that. Or even, some of the stuff that we did with the mules and all that. You don't need a whole lot of tools in order to do that.
Okay.
However, once you get into much more advanced cocktails, when you're doing, Negronis or you're doing, all sorts of different things, even martinis at times, you've got to have a good set of tools. And they don't even have to be expensive. We're actually going to talk a little bit today about the levels of tools and why we use the tools that we use behind our bar and why we believe that having the tools that we use make a good difference. But you really don't need to have the highest and best level of things. One of the things that you mentioned was, where do you get these? So you can go to any small wares store, whether it's Walmart or something like that. They all have a cocktail section.
That was going to be that was actually going to be my first question because last time we spent a lot of time here talking about the 4 parts of the cocktail and all of that. And so this episode we're going to spend more time over at the bar so you can show the tools and demonstrate the tools. So if you're listening to us, we're going to try to be as descriptive as possible. Right. But this might be one you want to go and watch the YouTube so that you can see the different tools that we're using.
And some of them can just be easily Googled. You can just Google. All the stuff that we're doing today is going to be very basic tools.
Right. And most of this you could probably get off Amazon or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything at this point comes, but there are a couple of websites that we use. I really like to use Cocktail Kingdom stuff. So, we'll reach out to them. Mm-hmm. But, I really like using those just because of the weight and the feel of a lot of stuff. But again, I'll talk about that more when we have the actual tools in hand.
And that was an unpaid endorsement.
That's right. That's right.
Just saying.
Yeah. But there's a whole bunch of different influences that have come from all over the world on the different tools. Just like anything really is that, there's European style mixing glasses, there's jiggers of different types, there's all sorts of different things that are out there. And we'll talk today about why we use what we use here.
All right. So see, that was quick and easy, and we're not spending a ton of time here talking theory. We're actually going to go get right into it.
Yeah, a lot more hands-on training.
So episode 3, we're moving over to the bar a little bit faster. We're going to go right after this. The news break's coming up. Don't go anywhere. Hey, it's Brian from the Big Booth podcast by Stumptown Station. Episode 3 drops this week, so you're going to get the video preview of what's going on this weekend, the week of March 22nd, 2022. So this week, trivia on Wednesday, and your opportunity to come in and be better. On this weekend, we've got live music on Friday from Scott Jackson. We've got live music on Saturday by Allie Rose. I will never say she's my favorite. She's my favorite. NCAA tournament games going all weekend long. Every game all week on every TV. The cocktail bracket is happening right now, and you want to be able to come in and vote for your favorite cocktail to make our new summer menu that's going to release here in just a few weeks. And if you haven't seen it yet, check out our podcast. It's on any of your podcast providers, or you can just go, hey Alexa, play The Big Booth by Stumptown Station. We'll see you there. Hey, we're back on the Big Booth podcast by Stumptown Station. We have moved behind the bar a little earlier this time because we are talking about tools. So we didn't have not a lot of things to go into about the tools until you show it to us, right? And that was the greatest tease ever. Hey, we're going to talk 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and then we're moving to the bar, which is, you know, an approach that I really like.
Yes.
Maybe we got to do that a little more often. So we have a whole plethora of tools going on here. We're going to try to do the best we can to describe them for the audio listeners, for the people that are at work pretending to work but actually listening to the podcast. Perfect. But then all the folks that are on YouTube, you know, if you're ever wondering, we do have lots of video happening here to show you everything that we're doing as well. So take it away, Maestro. What do we have going on here?
So again, we wanted to talk about our most important home bartending tools. So these are the things that I would say, out of anything else, you definitely need to have these things in order to do high-end craft cocktails. Now
so if you're setting up a bar at home, this is the stuff you want to have.
I think the thing that was most interesting about the research that I did for this episode is, more often than not, if you order a cocktailing set from wherever you're going to get it from, this would be a standard mix of the things that you're going to get.
Gotcha.
So a lot of these are the same. I would tell you one of the most important things for us is a juicer. So juicers come in quite a few different sizes. It's just two pieces of metal that fit together really well, holes on the bottom, and we use a lime juicer. That's why it's green. It's really not a lot of science involved in that. But I believe that having a good metal juicer is the best way to go. It takes a lot of force in order to do this over and over and over again. A lot of people are two-handed, so you might want to get one with a little longer handle, something like that. This works well for me. They make them in a bunch of different sizes. You can go lemons, limes, oranges, grapefruit. I mean, you can go all the way up. You can get them with...
Is there a watermelon size?
You know, it's so funny because one of the things that I did in my research was actually see a watermelon juicer.
And they have one.
They do have one, yes.
Oh, God,
yes.
I was just making a joke. That's awesome.
And I thought to myself, you might actually ask that question, so I thought about preparing it.
But, you know me so well.
That's right.
So the juicer, and we didn't really get into talking about the sour mix last episode when we were talking about, because I talked about it so much and then we just didn't get to it because we ran out of time. But so this is what goes in when you guys are making your sour mix. We're not going to go off on that tangent. We'll hit that another day. Maybe garnish. But you know, but that's the juicer that you're using when you're talking about the lime juice and lemon juice.
And honestly, you can just get these at your local grocery store. These are going to be in the cocktail section of your local grocery store. Or you can get them offline. You can get nicer ones as well. But honestly, just for setting up a home bar, you don't need to have something really, really nice. I just would really recommend metal just because it holds up a lot better.
Gotcha. Because that does seem really well put together.
Yeah. It's a nice little piece. I would tell you that a half a lime equates to about half an ounce.
Okay.
So when you're looking for cocktail recipes or you're going through, half a lime in one of these equates to about half an ounce. The strainer on the bottom, you can see that there's a number of holes there, about 7 holes on the bottom. You can see that they're there to keep the pith and all that kind of stuff out of there.
Okay.
You're not going to get seeds and things through that. So you want to make sure the holes are small enough for the juice the fruit you're going to be juicing. Right. So a good solid juicer is definitely something I would recommend.
Tool number 1, the juicer.
Now, for wine drinkers, obviously a wine key or a bottle opener, whatever you want to call it, this is going to be a very, very important one. They come in a lot of different styles. The things that I would recommend on a good bottle opener like this, I like what's called a 2-hinge opener because as you can see, it's got 2 steps. If you're on the YouTube, you can see it's got 2 steps here. One helps you open a little bit, and then you set that on top of the next one, and it'll help you get a little more leverage going forward. Some people don't like as many moving parts because they feel like they break down a little easier. That could very well be true for you as well. On here, it's really hard to see on this particular one, but some of them will have a way to cut foil off of the top of a wine bottle.
Little snipper on top. I've seen those.
So this one just has 2 bladed wheels that you kind of just roll around the bottle. Some of them come with a tiny knife, whatever it is. That's just for more proper wine service. Also, it just keeps you from taking cuts or whatever off of the wine foil that's typically around a lot of those bottles. The most important thing, I don't really think it matters about all the other pieces though. The most important thing is I would find one, I know this sounds strange, but that has about 5 coils in it. The reason why is because the closer together these spirals are on the opener itself, the better your cork your cork will adhere to this. So older,
it's less likely you're to split it? Or,
yes,
okay.
and older wine bottles typically will split a cork. So there is another style of wine opener called a Butler's key that's actually just 2 posts that go down in. You free the cork that way. This works just fine for 90% of the bottles of wine that are out there. Just a nice basic thing. It also serves the purpose of another tool so that you don't have to have it. It's got a bottle opener on it.
Oh,
so
nice.
you can just pop that open. So it's kind of a twofer, which we like.
It's the Swiss Army knife of bar tools.
Yeah, quite literally, even the way it opens. So next I would say would be a bar spoon. So this is the bar spoon that we use.
Now these look very different than your normal, than your teaspoons in your kitchen cabinet.
Yes, so although the size is going to be about the same. So the size of the bar spoon that we use is still going to be about a teaspoon. So you can get different measurements in here. I would really recommend knowing if you're going to be making a lot of cocktails, especially if you're mixology based, knowing how much is actually in here, 1/8 of an ounce or whatever it is. But yeah, you can actually use that as a unit of measure as well. You'll also notice that there's a lot of twists to this. So this is actually so that we can put the bar spoon against the back of the glass and spin that around, and we want to keep the cup of the spoon, or the rounded edge, I guess you could say, against the back of the glass. We want to keep that against the back of the glass.
So the twists help you keep that in there without having to,
because the twists actually, as we move this around the inside of the glass, you can actually see, or when you're watching your bartender do it, you can actually see the spoon will twist in my hands, and instead of me having to re-grip the spoon over and over again, the twists are actually there so that I can push the spoon.
You're just working your way down the twist there.
And spin it. There's another cool thing that I'll show you with that in just a moment, but there's a few different styles of bar spoon. They come anywhere from a few inches, this one's about 12 inches long, all the way up to 16 or more. That's just a preference on what you want with your own weight, right? It's just how much of it you can control. Some bartenders like a really long spoon because it's showier. You can use those to make, more drinks at the same time because it keeps your hands out of, away from the cocktail. You could, throw a flag up if you needed to on those really long ones.
Use it as a golf flag.
However, I use this specific spoon. This is actually the spoon that came from my personal bar kit. This is a Japanese style spoon. You can see it's got a flat edge here. There are different ones though. The American style spoon is what you're going to get at most places that you go, whether it's
in the U.S.
In the U.S., well, or anywhere really.
I mean, we do have one listener in England that I know of.
That's right. So he might have a little tougher time, but oftentimes they're going to have this red cap at the end. That's sort of how you identify that. However, there's not as much of a twist in the center, and also the twists are a little larger. I find these harder to use, especially for folks with smaller hands. And we're training bartenders that have smaller hands than a 6'5" guy. I find these a little harder to use. However, it does have a larger measuring surface down here. You can actually go up to almost a tablespoon on these. So that's the American style.
Now, is there a situation where, as we get deeper into doing recipes and cocktail recipes and all of that, is there a reason you would want to have multiple different versions of these with different measurements like you do with baking?
No, you don't need that. I would tell. I mean, we have all of these, but honestly, I've never switched my Japanese style spoon out for anything else just because it's the one I enjoy the most. I would definitely recommend, they're pretty cheap. I would definitely recommend find one that you really like
and just go with that.
Okay. So from there we have the English style. English style. You can see it's braided the whole way down, so it's twisted the whole way down. However, on the end we have a muddler. Again, another twofer, right? So one of the rules in kitchens or whatever is don't ever have like a single task tool. This one's nice because I can flip it. I can use that as a muddler. My only thing why I don't really enjoy using those is because I find that for our level of cocktail service, using them all day long, it doesn't hold up for a long time. However, for a home bar, it takes another piece of equipment.
It might be there. Okay, gotcha.
So I would maybe recommend one of these. Again, I like the full twist all the way down. You can also see these twists are real smooth compared to the American style. It's a little easier to control.
Okay.
Then we have the another Japanese style. You'll notice it's exactly the same on the spoon end. However, we've got this nice little pitchfork.
Instead of your flat piece, you have your trident. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's just for grabbing garnish or whatever it may be. I find them a little unwieldy to use, especially when chasing cherries around or whatever that might be. But it's a cool addition for sure, and it might be something that you really enjoy using at your home bar. So biggest thing for me is find twists that are comfortable in your hand and run the full length of the spoon so that way you can kind of work it down as you go through your cocktail.
So this might be the sort of thing you don't want to order online. This might be the thing you want to go to one of the kitchen stores or whatnot that have a ton of these, and then just go in and try it. Just twist it in your fingers.
And if you're getting to the point where you really want to try something at your house and you really want to set up a mixology bar at your home, go to your local bar. I mean, we'll hand these over to you, let you play with them a little bit, let you try stirring stuff, because it's just all about the comfort of what you feel comfortable doing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
All right, so that covers spoons.
That covers spoons, bar spoons. Next, we're going to go into our peelers. So we talked a little bit about, now this one's seen some heavy use because it's our bar peeler.
All right.
You can get these peelers, again, at just your grocery store, right? This is what's called a Y peeler because of its Y shape, believe it or not. You also have straight peelers that you're going to see, which are most like apple peelers or whatever.
I was going to say, like a potato peeler.
Yeah, I just find these are a lot easier to use because I can pull with it instead of push with it. I know that seems strange, but as I'm peeling an orange, I can kind of pull this down as opposed to pushing it away from me as I'm peeling with a straight peeler.
Okay.
It's just a little safer for me, and it's a little easier to use.
Okay. Yeah, and as we get into garnish, which might be the next episode, it might be the episode after, very soon we're going to be talking about garnish because there's a whole lot that goes into that. Then you'll be showing us a little more about how to use these and what they're used for. Okay.
Yeah, and safely. That's the big thing there. So
don't lose a digit because that's not a great ingredient. That is not one of the 4 ingredients.
Exactly.
Is blood.
And actually, to that point, I don't have one readily available for us, but to that point, a sharp knife is the best thing, one of the best things you can have. Again, it would take the place of your peeler, some things that you can kind of sub out. A real good sharp knife, one of the first rules about knives, however, is the sharper the knife, the more safe it is, because you're not sawing, you're not trying to cut through something using a lot of force.
Sure.
You want a nice, easy glide. So a good sharp knife is a piece of equipment that I would
Now, this would be like a small knife, like a paring knife.
A paring knife is
not the giant one. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
you don't need your Japanese
I don't need a meat
Ginsu
cleaver.
Knife.
Okay.
Yeah, your big German Wüsthof knives, those don't necessarily, you don't have to have
your machete.
Those, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that works out well. But we've also we're going to talk about strainers now. Probably one of the most important items. If you're only going to get a couple of things, I would definitely say this is one of the most important. There's 2 types of strainers. There's a Hawthorne Strainer and a Julep Strainer. So a Julep Strainer is just a cup with a whole bunch of holes in it. Has kind of an interesting history. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is a Hawthorne Strainer. So there's there's multiple qualities of a Hawthorne Strainer. So here you can see I have just a regular Hawthorne Strainer from a regular smallware store, whether it's your local restaurant supply.
And for the folks listening, this is the strainer that's got the spring around the edge that you'll see you put on there.
Yep.
Whereas the other one is more like a colander with a handle.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
The Julep Strainer is a colander with a handle. The Hawthorne Strainer is
describing for the radio audience.
Very good. But you'll notice here, this spring is a lot loose. There's a lot less coils in it.
Okay.
Right? So it's a lot more open spring, whereas this one's very, very tight. So there's 2 ways to use a Hawthorne Strainer. It's called open gate and close gate. So this little piece that's on the top here, this little finger grab, I guess there's a piece that sticks up directly.
Sure.
And, so that's either open gate, where I can just pour normally and strain out as much of the ice as possible through those springs, or I can close that gate and I can actually strain out even more.
Okay.
So the purpose of the closed gate there, the purpose of the closed gate is to strain out small ice chips, whether it's pieces of basil or mint or whatever you might be doing. That's the purpose of the closed gate there.
Gotcha.
Also, you want to make sure that you have a mixing glass. We'll talk about that next. A mixing glass that is wide enough to fit your Hawthorne Strainer.
Okay.
The reason why the Julep Strainer is so specific is because the Julep Strainer is actually designed to go into a julep cup. So a mint julep itself was actually served with one of these julep strainers at one point for 2 reasons. Number 1, to keep the ice off the teeth of the person who is drinking it. And number 2, the other reason was to keep a man's mustache dry. So you would put this in upside down, colander side towards you, push that back into your drink, take a drink, and then you would have a nice little strainer right there.
Look at that.
Especially with the julep, it's a very, it's got a lot of herbs in it, so there's a lot going on. Julep strainer takes care of that for you as well. I would say
you don't want to come out looking like you've just been noshing in the garden.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And I would say 90% of the time, a Hawthorne Strainer is going to do the trick for you. You really don't need a Julep Strainer unless you want to be extra fancy.
Okay.
So a good, solid Hawthorne Strainer. Ours comes from Cocktail Kingdom, like we had talked about before. I like the brass look of it. These are Barfly Tools, is the name of the company that makes it. Again, a really nice, tight recoil on that spring is what I like. However, there may be times where you want to let something through, and you can use, you know, a lot of folks like ice crystals on their martinis. That's something that we get a lot of requests for. So I'll use a wider spring in order to let some of those ice crystals through.
So the tighter the spring, the tighter the seal.
Yeah, well, and it's just a better filter, right? So you can see stuff would get through the wider spring
right.
a lot better than it would through this tighter filter here.
Gotcha.
So now the thing is, depending on how many, now we're talking home bar.
Right.
However, we talked about there might be a bunch of different people talking or looking at this. For speed of cocktails, the wider spring is going to be better. I can pour this much quicker through either a single strain or a double strain, which we'll talk about in a moment. I can pour much faster with the wide spring than I can with the Hawthorne.
Okay.
With the tight spring
one,
Hawthorne.
right.
Yeah. Weird piece of trivia about this is it's called a Hawthorne Strainer because the company that originally made it in England had the word Hawthorne stamped on it, and that's why it's called a Hawthorne Strainer.
Is there any particular reason that you found out, or was there?
It was supposed to be a tribute to the Hawthorne bar that the company owners went to and really enjoyed it, so that's why it's called a Hawthorne Strainer.
So if anybody is inventing a new tool and wants to call it the Stumptown,
that's right.
We're totally okay with that.
I don't even know what it would look like, but we'll use it. So, but yeah, I would say one of the most important items that you're going to have, the Hawthorne Strainer, the spoon, and a good solid knife, I think would be my most important so far.
Cool.
So we'll go into other strainers here. I've got two fine mesh strainers, okay?
Right.
You can also call these tea strainers, whatever it is. Many people have seen this one with just a rounded, it's just a piece of fine mesh inside a cup.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to see that with the rounded edge. That's more for tea. You see a lot of these too with dry leaf teas that are like a ball that have, you pinch them together and the ball opens up, put the tea in there, put that in your drink. It kind of serves as the tea bag, right?
Okay, right.
I like them to have a bit of a point. And the reason why, this is more of a triangular cone than just a rounded surface. The reason why is it directs my flow of liquid, so I can hit a smaller glass, like this Collins, for example. I can hit a
and
smaller
not have
glass,
it overflow on
not
you.
have it overflow, not have so much to have to worry about.
Sure.
These are really, really important to keep clean, however, because those little fine mesh holes, they'll catch everything, which is great, but you really have to make sure that you wash these real well. A wire brush or even just a nylon brush does really well with these. So, yeah, a double strain, however, as we had talked about, a double strain, you'll set your Hawthorne strainer on top of your mixing glass, which we'll go to next, and you would just strain that directly out of your Hawthorne strainer in your mixing glass into your double strainer, and that would go to.
What's a scenario for a cocktail where I would need to where I'm going to have so much crap in it that I'd want to strain it out?
I don't have necessarily a specific cocktail for that, but if you wanted a cocktail with no ice, martinis are another great example.
Okay.
If you want a nice, clean, cold martini, I'm going to either shake it or stir it, however you decide, and then at that point, I'm going to take all the ice out as much as I can here. Right. As much as I can here, and then just pour that through here.
Just to make sure you've gotten all the little bits out.
Everything.
Okay,
so
see, that makes sense.
It makes a really beautiful cocktail because it's nice, clean, everything.
And it's crystal clear. There's no little bits of ice or anything in there.
You're not going to get any floaties, I think is the technical term.
Nobody likes a good floater.
Yeah. So we've got that.
All right.
We'll talk about our mixing glass because I've mentioned it a few times here. This is a 750 milliliter Japanese mixing glass. So it's just a large glass cup. You can get them that are very, very fancy. I don't know that we're going to be able to see this, but you can actually notice mine has two seams on the outside.
Okay.
Those seams go to the inside as well. I don't see much of an issue with having seams in a mixing glass, but some people do. But it doesn't seem to really do much to our cocktails as we use them. But just a nice glass container. You can make 2, maybe 3 cocktails in here, depending on the number of ingredients. But a Japanese mixing glass is going to be the primary thing that you're going to make your cocktails in. Old Fashions, Manhattans, Sazeracs, things like that you want to keep the ice out of, but get a nice cold stir in there. And we talked a little bit about that in some other episodes where the dilution that goes into this, I don't want to bust up all the ice, and that's why some people say the seams are no good, but I don't want to bust up all the ice in there. I just want to make the cocktail cold. I don't want to fragment the ice because that's going to dilute things a lot more.
Okay.
I would say the most important thing about picking a Japanese mixing glass or a mixing glass of any kind for you is you'll notice it's got these nice little etchings on the outside. Many of them are very, very fancy. You can get them crystal, you can get whatever. However, this has a lot of grip to it. So these triangles that you can see, this raised triangle.
So it adds traction on the outside so that when it's wet and cold, you're not dropping it.
Correct, yeah. Okay. And that's what's going to happen. It's going to immediately, as soon as you start stirring, there's going to be condensation on the outside. It's going to be cold. Those grips there help us keep everything everything in line. So yeah, that's a solid Japanese
right.
mixing glass. I would say I personally prefer 1,000 milliliters. It's going to be a little larger. I just find them hard to find. So a 750 milliliter will do
But at
everything.
home, a 750 is going to do anyway. Because,
Absolutely, yeah. Even if you want to go fancier with a better look and a little smaller, you could still do a 350 or something like that, and it would be just fine.
Okay.
But a 750 milliliter, if you think about the size of that, is an entire bottle of liquor will fit in there.
I was just thinking, it's a coincidental amount that fits
absolutely.
in that.
Yeah. So good way to look at that.
All right.
One of the other absolutely core items that I would say you have to have is a jigger. Now, there's a million different ways to look at these. This is just a basic two-sided, double-sided jigger.
Okay.
It's just two cones stuck together. I've got two measuring sides. Usually they come in pretty specific numbers, either 2 ounces and 1 ounce with lines on the inside. As you're doing home cocktailing, I would say get something that you can easily see the lines on the inside.
Right.
Now, this one ran me less than $1 at Restaurant Supply Store. However, and it's hard to see there, but you can see we don't have any lines on the inside of that one. Makes it a little harder to do.
A little hard to
things.
judge half of it. Right. Okay.
Exactly. So it makes it a little harder. And as we talked about, cocktailing is kind of like baking. Important, specific measurements really matter.
Sure.
So for a home cocktailer, I do recommend a step jigger. Now you'll notice this is what's called a single jigger. However, it's got stair steps the whole way up, and each one of those stair steps are labeled on the outside all the way up to 2 ounces.
Okay.
So I can actually start with a 1/4 ounce, go all the way up, and fill that up to 2 ounces. I like these because they're a little easier to pour into without splashing. You notice how wide the mouth is here. It's a lot easier to splash. Then, from there, you can kind of go up. This one is my personal one.
Okay.
It's got a little handle, super fancy. So then we go here. This is a bell jigger.
Okay.
This is the jigger we use most often here at the bar. And the reason why is because it kind of incorporates a little bit of everything that we like so far. Number one, the mouth isn't quite as wide as it is on
Right.
jigger
More like
that
a
you-
bell instead of a triangle.
Yeah,
right.
correct, yeah.
Or a
so,
cone.
yeah, still two-sided. It's a little more comfortable in the hand. One of the things that you'll see bartenders do is they'll fill up one side, flip it, fill up the other side.
Okay.
And it also has really nice grooves
Oh, yeah,
on the
clean
inside
lines on the inside of it that you can see.
that we can see all the way down for every individual measurement. So that's our standard in our bar. This is our standard jigger that we like to use. My personal one, other than my step jigger, the other one I like is a Japanese jigger. Again, you'll notice very, very small opening, really easy not to over pour or spill or something like that. Still fits the hand nicely, still has both sides and those deep indentations.
And the deep end lines.
Yeah.
And now they're the same size. So that one, maybe
Yeah.
it's because it's more narrow
Correct.
in the one that you're holding now that looks just gargantuan compared
Yeah.
to the other ones. Right.
Yeah, correct. It's just the width of the jigger itself. But
Same volume.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Gotcha.
So the jigger actually has two origins as to why it's called that. One's much more interesting than the other. The original meaning was, or the original nickname, I guess, was that the English often gave a measure of alcohol to their sailors. So you'd go down to the bosun, you'd find out what your particular measurement was, what you had, what you were available, and he would use a jigger in order to sort that out. The jigger, they called it that was because it's the name of the fourth sail on a sailboat. It is the jigmast or a jigger. I don't know why they called it that.
Okay.
The more practical or real reason why they probably called that is because they used to call it a thingamajig and jigger stuck.
Hey, that's
So-
while probably more realistic.
Yeah.
It's not as cool as the fourth sail on a boat. Yeah,
Right, not nearly as
Okay.
interesting.
Gotcha.
Now, I will say one of the things that's interesting about a bell jigger, and part of the reason why we use it, is because you'll notice it fits pretty nicely there. So across the, there being the top
across
of my,
the top of a shaker.
Yeah,
right.
across the top of my shaker. The reason why is if I have something that's very syrupy, I can set that there and continue working on your cocktail
While it drains.
while it drains. Yeah,
That's
So,
cool.
makes it a
All
little
right.
simpler.
See, little hints and tricks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas the Japanese jigger obviously won't do that
Yeah.
for you. So that does bring us to our shakers. So this is a Boston style shaker. There are a few different styles of shakers. One of them has the lid that fashions on the top with the ice strainer on there. Cobbler shaker.
Oh,
is
with
what
the
it's called.
it sort of looks like the Hawthorne thing that fits
Yeah.
across the
Yep.
top and strains it
Yep.
out.
And
Okay,
it's
yeah.
the strainer. It basically has kind of a julep strainer on the top. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep. And so those are fine, especially for a home bar because they're much fancier. There's also a French style that they make now that's really fancy. I don't particularly love them because they're not quite as versatile.
Okay.
So you have a larger tin and a smaller tin. The smaller tin is usually 16 ounces. However, it also fits a pint glass in the larger side. So the Boston style used to be, or a Boston glass, used to actually be whatever glass fit into your shaker. So now we have these jiggers, they fit together, give it a little tap on the top, and it holds.
Now, I noticed you didn't put it straight down on there.
And I think we had talked about this, but yeah, this creates a little straight side for me and a heavily angled side. There's two ways to open these, and I think that's the hardest thing that people have with dealing with Boston shakers, is number one, you can either push it away from you,
right,
and you hear that loud pop, and it comes right open, or if you don't want everyone to duck and cover every time you make a cocktail at your house, there's a little spot here where you notice the break between the two tins.
Okay.
You just hit that, and it comes right open.
Okay.
So now, that's something that looks really easy on camera. Takes a lot of practice.
Gotcha.
But even if you only get one of these two, get the larger of the two sides. This is called a cheater tin. Just the smaller side is called a cheater tin.
All right.
You don't need it. You can do it with a pint glass.
Okay.
But with a pint glass, you risk breakage. If you're opening a bar, broken glass in ice is bad.
Yeah.
So I have this one again, another barfly tool.
Okay.
This is actually called a weighted shaker, so it's got some nice heavy weight on the bottom of it. Whereas this isn't gonna tip over quite as easily. This is just a standard shaker, Boston shaker that you would get from a restaurant supply store. Works just fine. However, it's going to be a lot more.
Oh, it's not weighted, so it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't stick to your bar.
Yeah, it'll be a lot wobblier.
Right.
So, but works out really well. Again, I think you're looking at less than $1 for these as well. So super simple there. That would be, of my standard set of tools, the things that I think you need.
Those are the basics.
Yeah.
Right.
When you upgrade a little bit, a good solid cocktail torch is always a good one because a lot of people use matches for their cocktails. Matches look very cool. If you're using matches for your cocktail, it's just fine. Just let the sulfur burn off first. When you strike it, or whatever that is, sulfur, phosphorus, whatever that's going to be. Strike that first. Let that burn off, and then do whatever your flavor is going to be.
Whatever you're going to do. And that's when you're like setting garnish on fire, like the oranges.
Yeah, and we'll do that on our garnish episode for sure. But yeah, that's something that's pretty useful for us. We use those torches hundreds of times a day, and just having a good solid torch. Again, you don't have to invest a whole lot of money into it. If you're looking for a cocktail torch, I really recommend searching for a creme brulee torch, because kind of like wedding flutes are more expensive than regular flute glasses, cocktailing torches are more expensive than creme brulee torches. Creme brulee torch is all you need. It's all the same thing.
Okay.
But when you add the word cocktail there, the price goes up by about $20. So after that,
so now we're into the bonus tools.
Yeah, bonus tools.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple of things that I would say are very basics that I would add in to my personal bar kit. This is just going to be a bottle opener, a fast key, a church key. It's got a million different names. Super simple, just a bottle opener on one side and a bar blade, another name for it, and just a hole for your hands or whatever on the other side. For me, sits super simple in the apron. It's very easy to use.
Okay.
It's also kind of a personal touch. My personal one says, I drink and I know things. Works out pretty well. So,
all right.
Then after
that,
so
it makes a good gift if you have somebody. If you know somebody that's putting a bar in their house, you can get them one of those, and you can get them customized. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can customize them to no end.
All right.
The last thing I would suggest would be a muddler. A lot of muddlers are wood, so a lot of the cool kind of classic cocktail look muddlers are wood. We use plastic in our bar, a much larger plastic one. It's got some good weight to it. Very, very simple, but this is the epitome of like a unitasker in your bar. This is really, really good for juicing inside a cocktail, mashing up whatever your greens might be, all of those different things.
Inspiring a bar back to go get ice.
Correct.
I mean, it could really all sorts of uses.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I like the plastic one just because of its sort of food safety aspect.
Okay.
Wood is very porous. If you're going to use a wooden muddler for your home, just make sure you clean it properly because the bottom of these gets chewed up pretty fast. You'll also see muddlers that have textured bottoms, like some spikes on the bottom. That's fine as well if that's what you want to do. Those don't oftentimes get as much of the bitterness out of the fruit, which is nice. So for a beginning bartender, I would recommend those because you're not going to mash as much. You don't ever want to over muddle anything because as soon as you get past extracting the oils from what you're doing, you start mashing out the bitterness of the fruit or the veggie or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that would be my kind of example of, I would say, a basic bar kit. Some things you can sub out, some things that are a little less expensive. But just like everything else, I would definitely say quality matters. The ease of use matters. Find something that you really enjoy using, because half the fun of cocktails is actually making them.
Sure.
So yeah.
That's half the fun.
Yeah.
I got a feeling
That's right.
I know the other half.
Yes.
All right. Hey, appreciate it, man. So that's our tools of the trade for the episode. And if you have questions on these, you can send us questions anytime you want. You can send them an email, thebigbooth@stumptownstation.com, or you can comment wherever you see the video or put a comment on YouTube. We'll see all of that stuff, and we'll compile them together. So, yeah, nice work, dude.
All right. Thank you very much.
Are we making a cocktail?
We absolutely can. So I'll show you one of the little tricks that we've got. So we'll take our Collins glass.
And we're short on time,
ice.
so we'll make it a quick cocktail.
We'll go pretty quick. So we'll take our Collins glass, a little bit of ice. So we'll throw our orange juice in here. This will be a pretty common cocktail that you've seen many a time before. We'll use our jigger. I'll pull my little Japanese one
Japanese
here.
one?
Yeah. So I'm going to fill that up to 1.5 ounces. Super easy, because I can see right on the inside of the jigger there where the line is. So 1.5 ounces of tequila. We'll throw that in. I am going to take my bar spoon, give that a quick little stir. Now, what we're going to do is the fun part about the spiral on a bar spoon, and a lot of people don't actually know this, but it actually holds through laminar flow, I believe is what it's called. It actually holds liquids to the bar spoon. So I can actually pour down this spoon right here like this, and that will actually drop. Oh, geez, that'll actually drop right down into my cocktail, as long as I don't miss.
Right.
That'll actually drop right down into my cocktail and make us a really nice gradient on our tequila
sent
sunrise.
it to the bottom of the spoon, even inside the cocktail.
Yeah, and
sends
it also
to the
works
bottom.
well. So another example that I had here for you, it also works well with carbonated beverages. So if you want to throw a carbonated beverage down your spoon. And
By the way, important rule, don't put carbonated beverages in a shaker.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Don't shake carbonated beverages. That's a big one. And also don't shake warm tonic, because warm tonic will also just go everywhere.
Okay.
But you can see if I do that, put my spoon there, and I pour my carbonated liquid down, you can see I don't get any splash out of it. So fun little thing about the spoon, the stirs, or the spiral on a bar spoon, is that you can pour directly into the center of a cocktail and not get a whole lot of noise out of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, learn little tips and tricks all
That's
the time.
right.
I'm glad I made you make me a drink.
That's right.
See?
That's right. It worked out pretty well for you.
There's one reason I'm here, Brandon.
There you are, my friend.
All right, cool. Thank you, sir. All right. So, like I said, if you have questions on any of this stuff, you can email us. You can comment on the videos wherever you see it. Speaking of questions, we brings us to our favorite part of the episode here. It is the questions for Brandon.
Yes.
All right, and we'll blow through these pretty quick because I know we ran really long last time. So
right.
So we have Derek from Ohio. He wants to know, what's the worst drink to make? So somebody comes in and orders this drink, and of course, being the bartender that you are, and you're going to go, absolutely, I would love to make that for you. But in the back of your mind, going, oh god damn it, whatever, you know. Yeah. And so, what's that drink for you? I am knocking over every bottle in this well I'm standing next to.
That's all right. I would say that there's two actually. The hardest one that we make, or that I've made, is a Ramos Gin Fizz. It's a cocktail that takes about 10 minutes to make. You have to make it in multiple parts. It has to be poured down the bar spoon. It's just the most technical cocktail. So I don't make them. I'm not good at them. It's not a skill set that I have learned. Right. There are some phenomenal bartenders out there that can build the most beautiful Ramos Gin Fizz. But the cocktail is actually designed to rise out of the glass and all of that. So that's a good one. The other one's the mojito, I think would be probably the worst thing, because you've got to pick all your mint, you got to throw it all in there, you're muddling for days and days and days, and then you don't even really get to use your strainer to help you get it into the glass. You got to dump it all in there, so it's just kind of ice, salad, liquor. Those are my two cocktails that I would say are the most difficult.
And those are
to make.
These are totally your own opinion questions.
Yeah,
these
are
not
these
gospel.
are just just my opinion. Yeah,
the Gospel of Brandon.
That's right.
Chapter 4, verse 1.
Yeah.
All right. So Lauren from Massachusetts wants to know. So you go to a bar. How do I get served quickly?
Oh, that's a good question.
So I'm pretty sure the answer is not, hey, Brandon!
Yeah. That usually doesn't work.
That's not the answer? Okay.
There's a lot of things not to do. Number one, don't slap the bar, don't snap, don't whistle, don't wave money. Those are a lot of things that bartenders, we see it a lot, so we don't actually, it's just kind of not something that we want to immediately pay attention to. Bartenders work in a pattern. Every bartender that I've ever seen works in a pattern. So they're going to start at one end of their bar, and they're going to move down a direction. Usually wherever their well is, I'm here against a wall. I'm going to start on my right, and I'm going to move to my left. Okay. And I'm going to get to wherever the next bartender's taking over people and go from there. I would say find where that bartender is, watch them make 2 drinks, find where they are, which direction they're going, and find a hole on that side.
Right.
That's going to be the fastest way to go,
Right.
because then you're now inserting yourself in line. Depending on the speed of the bar and how busy they are and all that, they may end up grabbing someone who's actually been there for a few minutes. But you're almost always guaranteed to get better service if you sort of find the line and get in the line.
Don't start behind the guys making the drink for you
Right,
now.
exactly,
Okay, gotcha.
yeah.
All right.
And it can get a little tough, too, when you find that middle ground between the 2 bartenders where they're both working the same side. That can get a little tough. Pick your bartender, try to make eye contact so they know you're expecting them to come to you.
All right. And then one last one. I've got Carrie from Charlotte commented, and she said, "Do you need a license to be a bartender?" So when you're becoming a bartender, do you have to get rated? Like I think hairdressers have to have cosmetology licenses.
No, you don't in North Carolina. So the laws are a little different across the United States, but in North Carolina, you don't need a bar license. ABC, our Alcohol Beverage Commission, does offer a bartending training course. It's actually a pretty good course, I gotta say. I've taken it. Really, really good course. It teaches you a lot of the bar basics, especially if you're looking to get into being a bartender and you've never done it before. It teaches you a lot of that, how to control counts, how to do all those kind of things. Big presentation about the tools and the glassware and the ice and recipes and all that stuff. So don't need a license by any stretch of the imagination.
But is that a certification? So when I walk into a wine shop, for example, and I see somebody's certificate on the wall that says, "Oh, he's a sommelier."
Yeah.
Okay, this dude's been through some training, right? So when I walk into a cocktail, is there a certificate or something that says, "Hey, I went through the North Carolina ABC course"?
No, that's not something. I mean, you do get a certificate for completing it, but it's not something that I would necessarily say is
hang on the wall
that you're looking for. Yeah.
Right, okay.
I would tell you the things to look for in a lot of bars are going to be, we have a national program called Serve Safe. Great program out there. It really helps educate people on food safety and all that. That's a really good program to have. I've been a proctor for them, giving tests. I've had it forever and ever and ever. So I really recommend that because it really means that the people that are there know what they're doing.
Right.
And you'll usually see those next to a health score or something like that. So, but yeah, it's really good stuff. But you don't need a license to be a bartender. Honestly, the best thing you need in order to be a bartender is a great personality. That's it. That's the number one thing you need before anything else.
Right.
Because you don't have to know how to do it all. You just have to be friendly while you're doing it.
Yeah, the service aspect of it is huge.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And for both sides of the bar, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm
absolutely.
going to have a better time if I have better service from here, and they're going to have a better time if I'm, being nice.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah.
If I'm not going, that's stupid.
Yeah.
No, it's okay.
And one of my quotes for my staff and everybody involved is that the customer experience in a bar never exceeds the employee's experience. So however good an employee is feeling that day is going to translate immediately. So as a bartender, even at home, if somebody says, "Hey, can you go make me a drink?" You're grumbling about it or whatever. They're not going to be as inclined to have as much enjoyment or B, order another one. Now at home, that might be what you're trying to do.
Right,
but in a bar, that's one of the things that we teach our folks.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely,
awesome.
absolutely.
Tools of the trade, and we had the questions with Brandon, Q&A with Brandon. We have another episode that'll be coming out in a few weeks, so you want to follow us on YouTube or follow us on your podcast provider to make sure that you get the next episode. Now, I'm going to give you an example of poor planning. We have no idea what the next episode is going to be. It could be garnish. It could be a staff spotlight. It could be a music spotlight, because we have some of those coming up. It could be another cocktail spotlight, because folks seem to like the Moscow Mule, so maybe we'll pick another one. So yeah, we're gonna sit around and contemplate what the next episode should be, but you'll be able to see it. It'll be just a surprise to you as it is to us. We appreciate you watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you have questions, email us at thebigbooth@stumptownstation.com or comment wherever you're seeing us. This is Brandon Mills, Brian Lewis. Thank you for showing up.